Hello. So my name is Dr. Susan Northfield, and I am your former president of the Victorian branch of the RACI.
Morning, everyone. My name is Associate Professor Rajesh Ramanathan, and I am your incoming president for the Victorian RACI branch.
So you notice this is a bit different for our monthly newsletter updates that you get from your president. We wanted to use this as an opportunity to acknowledge the transition and have a bit of a conversation so that you can know a bit about each of us and our visions for the RACI. But it's a chance for me also to be able to say a lot of thank yous and and really just to then be able to move and hand over to Raj.
It's also an opportunity for me to say hello to everyone in the Victorian branch and also acknowledge the new committee coming in and hopefully working with them and creating some amazing content for each and every one of you.
So maybe I will start though with those thank yous, because the last 2 years that I've been president of the Victorian branch, there have been a lot of people that have contributed to the success of the branch, and I have to first and foremost say thank you, and I think Rush will echo this, the staff in the RACI offices. They are absolutely phenomenal. They've been doing so much to support all aspects of the RACI, not just the events that we see, but all of our school engagements, of which there are so many. And I think for us, particularly in the Victorian branch, there are a couple of people we have to particularly acknowledge. First and foremost, our amazing coordinator, Elise Scanlon-Batt. She has been spectacular. I think we both would have gone into a bit of a spiral if we didn't have her there to support us. She's just been phenomenal to keep us on track and had some really great ideas to contribute as well. And the other person I think most of our groups and certainly the branch would interact with regularly would be our amazing finance officer, Mary Papa. Again, she's been with the RACI for I think about 16, 17 years, and she just knows how everything runs. It's amazing to have that kind of that knowledge. But we also have Nick, Carolyn, Imogen and Ange, who have been fantastic part of the local office for us. And I think, and also to thank our former CEO, Roger Stapleford. He's been the CEO that we've both known since I think we really got involved with the branch.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's been, I think I met him first time when I was doing PhD, so he's been around for a long time.
Oh, really? He did. I think it was 12 years. So correct. I think well and truly earned his retirement.
Correct.
So maybe we'll just have a bit of a chat to let people know a bit more about you, Raj, coming into the role. So with all of these, with the exception of the staff, everybody else involved with the RACI are volunteers. So what's your day job?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. So I am an associate professor at RMIT. So my background's interestingly in biology, so I have a bachelor's degree in botany and biotech, and then I did a master's in biotech from RMIT, worked in the industry for a bit, and then came back to do my PhD. And since then, I've been working at RMIT a couple of years. I was in the US. But came back with a Vice Chancellor Fellowship role, and since then I've just progressed at RMIT well. In terms of research, most of my focus is on making nanoparticles and using them in biological applications. Although I moved to chemistry during PhD, but I feel like in my heart I still have biology somewhere, so a lot of my applications tend towards biology.
Yeah. Would you say then you fit within like a materials chemistry kind of space, or do you feel that it sits across a couple of different chemistry fields for your research?
Yeah, I would call it a few different fields. So yes, material chemistry is a big part of my research, But I think we call ourselves nanobiotechnologists. So you use nanotechnology in biotechnology applications. So I think that's a much better term that I try and use in most of the places.
Yes. It's really exciting work, and you're actually presenting some of that as the Hartung Youth Lecturer
Yes.
for 2022 as well. So we'll be having to redirect some people to the information where they can actually get you to come out to one of their schools and give that talk about your work.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah. So you've been involved with the RSCI as a member for a while, but how did you get involved with the branch?
Oh, that is interesting. So technically, it was just after PhD. I think I was just curious. I've been part of Raki since 2009, if I'm not mistaken. My first year of PhD, I joined, and I always knew about Raki. I've been to a few events, but I never knew what the committee does. So I think in 2015 or 2016, I was like, yep, okay, I'm in the city. They said the AGM is around, and there was an open invitation. So I said, okay, let me just go and see a few people. And I'm generally an introvert, so when I joined the committee, I was pretty shy, but I feel like everyone in the committee at that point helped me immensely to come out of my shell. And eventually I became the treasurer in 2018, and then in 2020 I became the president-elect.
I mean, it's quite the journey, really, from just the interest into the upward trajectory. What happens when you're really wanting to engage? And I wouldn't have picked you as an introvert in that respect. So now that you've reached that peak of the Victorian branch, what are your plans for the branch in the next 2 years?
Interesting question, Susan, because I think in the past couple of years we've put together an amazing succession plan. And when we started as the executive, we didn't look at it from a short term, but from a more of a long term perspective. I would like to continue that good work that we started. A couple of things I would like to focus on is one is we have several schools initiatives running from the Victorian branch itself. What I would also like to do is bring in a few additional organizations that I've been working with. One's Brainstem. The way Brainstem works is they mentor students with science projects. The students come to universities and look at how we do research, etc. And I find that quite fascinating, because when students look at something, it stays with them, they get fascinated. And I think that's the whole thing about even the Hartung Youth Lecture Series, I think. So I want to bring in organizations like that and build RSCI's reputation as well in that way. And if it is successful, we can even put it across different branches, so which will be quite nice. That's one thing I want to focus on. The other thing is supporting our ECRs. I feel like with the current scenario that we all know about funding, the ECRs are the ones who struggle the most. And I've finished PhD only in 2012, so it's probably my 10th year. And I know the challenges that ECRs and EMCRs face, and I would like to give them a platform to grow, and we as the Victorian branch do as much as possible to help them grow.
Yeah, I think we do have that nice little niche, don't we, of being able to engage with our local members in particularly in that career stage, and well, across all career stages. But I do like your vision of thinking. You're already thinking about from the early stages of getting younger kids interested in science and then bringing them through that journey. Well, I guess that sort of though makes me think, because you're mentioning the committee, that makes me realize as well that I haven't yet said that I also really want to thank the 2021 and 2022 committees that I led, because we really did face some challenges, didn't we?
Yes.
But I am really, really grateful for the members that were on the committee during those 2 years, and you were alluding to the succession plan that you and I had. So I really have to say a special thank you to you, because we've been able to be in lockstep of just thinking about the future. And I suppose maybe COVID made us think about that just a little bit more, realizing we needed a 4-year plan, not a 2-year plan.
Correct.
But thank you for being an awesome vice president. And I'm really
Thank you.
excited to see what happens in the next 2 years.
No, thank you, Susan. In saying that, being a branch president is not easy, especially when you took over, because you took over the peak of COVID, I guess.
Yeah, yes.
And there were some highlights, some challenges. So I want to have a bit of a chat with you about, your experience as the branch president. So especially some of the highlights. I know it's been a tough couple of years, but what were a few highlights that you had as a branch president?
Well, I guess, as you say, it was a challenge coming in, and I had before taking on the role, when I became president-elect in 2019, naive as I was, I had all these big plans of things I wanted to do. And of course, that all got shelved once we hit 2020. So the thing that really, as a highlight, and what I was really proud of with the Victorian branch, considering, as a state, we were in lockdown more than anywhere else in the country, just how well we managed to pivot within that space and learn, because a lot of what we do is offering of events, and when we couldn't do that in person, we started to embrace the online capability, and we held some really successful virtual events. So I remember thinking of our groups as well, because the groups were fantastic. I'm so grateful to them during that period. Thinking of the peptide users group as an example, they ran one of their symposiums virtually and had interstate and international attendees, and there were over 100 people that came along, and that was amazing. So the fact that we were able to pivot, but also what we've then maintained since then, that understanding of the importance of virtual engagement sitting as like a hybrid option, so that we can be more inclusive to people who just can't get to events because they've got childcare responsibilities, or they live rurally, or all sorts of different reasons. So I think it was a moment of growth for us there.
Yeah, I think you pointed a few important aspects, especially running events in hybrid, and getting people back in. The next question is actually more for me to understand from you. I know we've been working together. I've learned quite a few number of things from you, but I'm also sure that there are things that you would have found working very closely with Elise and everyone else at the branch level. I'm sure you would have seen or foreseen a few challenges that you can think of for the foreseeable future that we have. What are some of those challenges, and do you have any tips for me to actually tackle those challenges?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest challenge that we're going to face really is kind of what we were touching on before, which is post-lockdowns. I'm careful to say post-lockdown rather than post-COVID. We do have this reluctance we've seen for people to come back to in-person events, and that has been through 2022 getting better, and we are seeing a slow increase to attendance numbers. But I think being selective about our offerings, and probably having less deliberately social interactions and more offerings that are some sort of professional development with a social aspect included in it. I think that's where everyone's seeing the value now. I think we're less likely to go out just for a get-together networking than we are to do a career development type event, and then have the social aspect built in. So I think we can change the structure again of how we put some events together, and that will hopefully increase our attendance back. But again, we having that hybrid option as well. I think that's going to increase some accessibility. And I think addressing one thing as well, is sort of going back to your previous question of highlights, diversity and inclusion is something that we were really good about addressing this year, particularly for the branch. And I'm going to give a shout out to your president-elect, Dr. Jess Holian, who led the initiative for us to get some funding to actually run some diversity and inclusion training, which was free for our members throughout this year. And there's still a couple of opportunities if anyone's watching coming up, so just keep an eye on the website. But yeah, I think we learned a lot from those training opportunities, and now it becomes, how do we implement those? Because the policy for in that space is set by the National Diversity and Inclusion Committee, but within the branch we've got the opportunity to really put some new things in place. I really loved Acknowledge This, was one of the training opportunities where they talk about how to actually craft your acknowledgement of country and make it that personal, respectful narrative. So things like that, and how do we then share that information? That's probably one of the next things that we can look at too.
Thanks, Susan. I'll keep that in mind when I'm going to be leading the branch.
I've said we, but yes, you.
As most of you would know, Susan's now been elected onto the national board. Congrats, Susan.
Thank you.
And just to talk about a little bit more about your role in the national board, what is your vision? What do you think that you want to really do at the national level?
Well, so I guess just to clarify, my role is one of the general board members. I'm not one of the executive members, but I have a few things in mind, which I guess really, to take a step back for a second, just to say that we have got an incoming president at the national level as well. And what I'm eager to do is work with him and our new CEO to make things easier for communication to happen between our branches and the divisions. I think there's a lot of opportunity that we're not really exploiting right now. I mean, the last few years kind of becomes understandable because we were all so siloed just by the very nature, but we're really in this position now that we can put together opportunities and mechanisms to enhance that conversation and really share then the benefit for the members of making things that are maybe available interstate or at a national level more readily available and aware of opportunities to our members. So that's one, certainly one aspect. But I think there is this a bigger question that we need to address with the RACI, which is around the overall structure of the organisation, because we've grown quite big over the last 105 years. So yes, I guess the question then becomes, you know, how do we structure things? How do we communicate moving forward? So there's a nice opportunity for a pause point, I think, for us right now to actually go back and look at how we do things and where can we make improvements. So I'm looking forward to working with Parley and the rest of the board.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because there's a lot of changes happening.
There are
new CEO, new president-elect, several new members in the committee as well. So it's going to be an interesting year, and it's going to be fun, exciting, at the same time challenging. So it's putting together everything. Can't ask for anything more. With that, thanks, Susan, for your time, and thank you all for listening. And I'm hoping and I'm sure that I'll be seeing a lot of you and having a conversation with a lot of you in the coming couple of years and a couple of months. Please do watch our December newsletter. We'll be planning to do a bit of a highlight of some of the events that we had in 2022. And I'll put together a nice looking video for everyone to watch. Thank you.
Thanks, Raj.